Welcome here, everyone. We are excited to be underway with our second series for this season. It is going to be a banger. I really hope so, at least as we're headed over to the Targon division of the ADL, the Aegis Defenders League. My name is Orbital. With me is, of course, Quacks, and we'll be your casters for the series here tonight. Quacks, how you feeling today?
Oh, it's good to be here again. It is everyone kind of hates their Mondays, but, to make the Monday night a little bit better, to alleviate some of that dread, knowing that, work has to be done for the next week. The weekend is very distant and you can't see the light. We're hoping today we can at least make some of that a little bit better. And yeah, like you said, it's going to be a banger series. It's Evictix Amethyst versus High Alert Nightmare here. And first, we're going to open up with the former team that I introduced, Evictix Amethyst, having Texturace, Smacker, Blix, Joshin, and Eudora in the support role, as well as DJ Zeller and Never Outmatched in the fill roles. And this team going in as the stronger team on the day. They won their week one matchup. It was a 2-0 in week one for them. And they did it off the back of a lot of consistency with their draft. Almost every single player played the exact same champion in games 1 and 2 in that series.
And for High Alert Nightmares, I'm wondering how exactly things went a little bit sideways for that roster. We have the amazing Nuffies, we got Lest Force, we got Prism, Che, as well as Dira. And this squad, I believe, had a little bit more of a difficult time going into that matchup. It was up against Akuma Scimitars, but it was a close one. It was a 1-2 loss to the Scimitars.
Yeah, I mean, Akuma Scimitars are a tier 1 team. I believe they're tied for 3rd place when it comes to the full LP points. They are one of the strongest teams on paper, and Akuma as an organization has always been able to produce some really kick-ass rosters. So it's not really surprising to see this kind of a team who is, learning to gel together, isn't necessarily on that level of Akuma on paper. It isn't surprising to see them drop the ball in week number 1, because though these first few weeks are for you to get that cohesion down, are for you to master that synergy, find your team's identity. And it seems like we found plenty of identity for High Alert Nightmares. So they're already starting off on the right foot for a squad that is kind of working from the ground up, so to speak.
Of course. I wouldn't even call it dropping the ball. It's just you ran into a pretty tough opponent at the end of the day. So we'll see exactly what they can pull off. I believe all the teams are ready to go, and hopefully we got that draft ready to go as well. Now, keep in mind, there are some champions that are quite obviously very powerful right now in the draft, but also just blue side in general is having a ball of a time. If you're not on blue side for the start of the draft, things could go a little bit sideways depending on what champions you grab.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are still on 15.3, so there are a plethora of characters that are still heavily prioritized in that B1 slot, namely, despite the nerfs, things like the Skarner are ever present in pro play. Things like the Jace are still very powerful. Counter picks like the Galio are also very strong, being able to go flex to the top lane and the mid lane. Even the support role, we've seen some of that kind of hit the ground running with some of these players that like to experiment a little bit more. I don't expect we're going to be seeing a lot of experimentation in this series. None of these players really shout, crazy off-meta picks, except for Nuffies. Now, Orbital, you have been in this space for a very long time, and Nuffies has been a player that has been synonymous with Aegis, right? This guy has been in the APL, he's been in the AEL, and now he's in the ADL because I believe he hit Masters in the last season. This man has been in competitive so long that I remember when I was playing against him as a player, and he has always been the guy that you can rely on to pick some crazier stuff. So if High Alert Nightmares want to kind of throw Evictix off their game and get them thinking in this game 1 draft, they would be able to do that with Nuffies 100%.
Well, we're taking a look here, and we're already seeing some bans thrown exactly towards some of those mid lane options here. You can see the Aurora band away. You can see the Ari band away. What's surprising, though, is, of course, the likes of the Skarner, even the Mel are all currently left open, but it is a hard trade of unique bans, it feels like. With the Lilia also banned out, these are triple AEP heavy bans, and then you go for the Wukong. So Evictix have a good idea of what they want to do. They grab that Wukong immediately.
Yep, despite the Skarner being open, it was what Smacker played twice in week 1, but he is actually going to nab up that Wukong. It is most likely going to the jungle. I mean, Textrace has played things like the Cho'Gath, so his ability to maybe pilot something like a Wukong, I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility, but we're likely going to see that in the jungle. Now, it's going to be up to Han here to pick another one of those strong champions. You mentioned the Mel is open, the Skarner is still open. You have powerful response champions like the Garen as well, who has been seeing a lot of priority in this season specifically, but it is going to be that Sejuani instead. This is something that Lest Force played in week 1. It was the pick he played where they actually beat Akuma Scimitar. So hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it seems like High Alert Nightmares are just going back to what works. Now you have to pair it up with something strong. Yone is obviously the premier pick, but they are going to pivot, and instead they are going to lock in that Lulu, another very strong champion, Orbital.
It is, but it also signals that you're going for a hyper carry one day at the end.
Yep.
It's a very obvious draw of information, which now means Evictix can kind of go, okay, they're going to play hyperscaler, most likely mid to late. I mean, there is no other option. If you're going with the Lulu, if I see a Lucian come out with the Lulu, I'm like, come on, you can bring us something a little bit more firepower. If I see a Jhin, I'm like, you're trolling at that point. But for Evictix, they're going to take one as well for themselves.
Yeah, I think Evictix here would probably be good to respond to a hyper carry of their own. Twitch is a good response, and then you could pair it up with another enchanter. Something like the Melio is not out of the realm of possibility. This is also something that we saw Eudora pilot in week number 1 to great success when you have players like Joshin who are really good at, being these hyper carries. He definitely was the star in that series. You really want a lot of these people that can back him in that late game, and especially in that early game, which is why we are seeing a bit more of aggression down in the bot lane now. Han, I think it's pretty obvious they want to go for something like a Jinx, right? You were talking about hyper carries. They took one of the hyper carries in Twitch away. Really, the only other option I could see here being good would be a Kog'Maw. But when you've got a champion like Wukong and Leona who can cause so much disruption, I feel like that might be a little bit more risky instead of just locking the Jinx, which has a little bit of self-peel to get those backline threats off.
Well, that is one hyper carry.
Okay.
I haven't seen that in ages. Well, okay, I have, but it's in solo queue, and I haven't seen a competitive Vayne work out too well, especially into a Leona as we get the next Vayne's out.
Yeah, and this almost certainly means that Vayne is going to be forced to go into that cleanse because you're wanting to go in to Evictix, right? You as Vayne have very short range, so you're going to want to try and make up that space against champions like Twitch who can simply outrange you in a lot of these trades. So we're going to see a lot of aggression come out from the Vayne. My biggest worry is champions like Lulu, they can bring the poke, but going forward with your Vayne is a lot more difficult when you have got an aggressive champion like Leona who can stop you in your tracks. So it's going to be up to that 2v2 combo to really hit the ground running because Evictix picked themselves something that is very hard to punish without the necessities of bringing your jungler or potentially mid laner to help you out.
Well, we are still waiting to see what that mid lane is going to be. Maybe they still bring it out and say, hey, we are going to bring some of that power, which is why we saw the Lissandra banned. You still look for that extra hard CC. Whenever I see a Leona, I love having it paired with a secondary CC or have Leona be the secondary. Granted, it's a wrecking ball one way or another. Yone now being banned away, taking away some of that priority options in the mid or maybe a top side flex.
But they're also just trying to take away really good 2v2 champions that can pair up with that Sejuani, right? You don't want that champion to have a champion, a counterpart, or rather a compatriot that can really utilize that attack speed. So I like what they're doing, banning away that Yone. There are still a few options left for Han, and I am interested to see which of those they actually end up taking. My personal opinion would be you potentially could go for something. You could go for the Yasuo. That certainly is an option, but I do think that Synergy is going to be reliant on picking up a top laner, something like a Cassante or an Ambessa could be within the realm of possibility. That escaped the ban phase, and Ambessa is still really, really strong. And you want backline access. You want to be able to get to that Twitch. I think Ambessa would fill that niche perfectly, but more than likely we're going to see the mid laner picked up here, and I actually do like this. I dig this Anivia pick against champions like Twitch, who, you've got to create that space against them because of that range that we talked about, Orbital. But yeah, I would expect that this is most likely going to be potentially an Ambessa in the top lane. It all depends on what Evictix pick up here.
Yeah, here's the problem though. Anivia can be countered in a solo lane matchup style, and that's what actually scares me a little bit. So I'm taking a look here, and they are going to go for the Xerath. Is it Xerath going to come out? I feel like Xerath is starting to get a lot more love lately. It's been seeing a lot more play. There have been some itemizations where you can bring a lot of long range damage and then follow up with the brunt of damage as well. But this is going to turn into a skill range matchup if we're watching this mid lane action. So I'm quite excited. Evictix still looking for a top lane blind this time around. You were mentioning, hey, how exactly are you going to play this out? What are you going to look for? Is it going to be the Embessa? Are you going to go for something like a Cassante? But what are you going to aim for? And for Evictix, you have your pick of the litter.
It is Wukong top lane. We talked about that flex. It's the Wukong in the top. It's the Amumu in the jungle. The adaptation here from Evictix in game one. Again, we said it was a possibility, a very niche possibility, Orbital, but one nonetheless. Now, though, I do think that Ambessa would be a good pickup into the Wukong. I think that this is a good matchup overall. Wukong doesn't have a lot of range that you can abuse over the Ambessa. A lot of it is just fist fighting, and Ambessa as a champion wouldn't have it any other way, but they are going to go for a little bit more stability in the top lane. Rather, they're going to be putting all their eggs in that bot lane basket, so they want to make sure there are no, other variables they have to worry about around game one. So they are going to throw down a tank, which will be Dr. Mundo. I don't know, Orbital. I'm kind of sussing out this High Alert Nightmares comp. The Vayne pick was really suspicious to me. It felt like this was almost a perfect game to go Jinx, and Vayne just doesn't have the range to be able to contend with champions like the Xerath, like the Twitch. You can't really circumvent that aspect of the game, and if you try, there's an Amumu waiting to stun you, there's a Leona waiting to stun you, there's a Wukong waiting to knock you up. So it's a battle of how can you navigate these team fights as Vayne when you're outranged, and if you try to get within range for yourself, you just get instantly CC'd down, and you don't have a ton of follow-up, right? Lulu isn't a champion that can follow you into 3 or 4. She'll get blown up. So you're really reliant on that Sejuani and that Mundo to follow you and lead a lot of those fights that you can take over in.
Not just that, it's also following up on the fact that the Anivia is short range as well. Like looking down the side of HAN, and it's just, how are you reaching the Twitch and Xerath in general? Not even talking about the Amumu and the like. It is going to be very painful. But for Evictix, we can see why they are drafting at the top tier, why they're currently 1-0 and a very comfortable 2-0. Their composition screams synergy to me.
It does. The only thing that I'm a little bit worried about is the Wukong. You have a lot of range with things like the Xerath, things like the Twitch. Hell, even the Amumu, you could say that he has a little bit of range with the bandage toss, being able to do that damage. Obviously, it leads into him going in, but the poke is still there. You've got the ability to throw these abilities out at long range, and Wukong doesn't really have that, so I'm interested to see kind of how he fits into this team comp outside of the laning phase, where he will most likely push in this Dr. Mundo. I imagine it'll probably lead to them having priority over the Grubs, and if they can use that, are we going to see the Wukong more in style of side laning, being a threat in the top or the bot lane, wherever the team needs him to be, or will we see him be more of a peel bot who tries to create space with that Cyclone and allowing his backline to get all of those long range abilities that we talked about off?
It really is a big question, and I mean, it'll be answered as we head into game. Before we do head into game, though, I want to talk about our sponsor here today, Zen Market. Have you ever had a problem longing for that special Japanese item but can't find it locally? Well, we do have the solution for you. Zen Market is your one-stop solution for buying products directly from Japan. They'll help you buy items from over 10,000 shops in Japan, as well as place bids on auctions on your behalf. They'll even consolidate all your items safely into one box and can ship internationally. They provide excellent customer service in 19 languages, which is why Zen Market is trusted by over 2 million users worldwide. If you're interested in getting in on this, go ahead and check out the panel below the stream or click the link in the chat to try them out now. If you sign up with the promo code Aegis, that is AEGIS, you'll get 1,000 yen off your first international shipping fee. That is, again, Aegis, AEGIS. We'll go to a very, very short break as we play a little bit of an ad from Zen Market themselves, and then we'll be in for game number 1. Don't go anywhere.
日本にはまだある？急がないと在庫があるのはそこだ。遅かった。そう、そのフィギュアを 一つだけ譲ってくれんやろか。
お前はだよ、同志じゃねえか。もちろん取引しようや。
ありがとう、全マーケット。
As we are here, ready for game number 1, Evictix on that blue side, looking to try and get a 2-0 on the series score started, but on the red side, it is going to be HA, and of course, rocking a bit of a late game scaling composition with that cleanse, like you were mentioning on Shay. It had to be done.
It had to be done, absolutely. I mean, look at all the CC, look at all the lockdown coming out here from Evictix Amethyst. You as Vayne are going to have such a tough time managing around the range that Xerath and Twitch can put onto you, while also, you know, like we talked about, Vayne has to get within, you know, basically has to get in your face in order to hit you. One of the shortest ranged AD carries in the game, and against a comp, it's going to be really difficult. So I feel like the things we have to look out for here at Orbital are those frontliners, right? How powerful will Lust Force and Nuffies be? How much space can they provide as frontliners? And how tanky can they get once those team fights start to roll around? And that's only half the battle. Shay has to survive the laning phase against Eudora and Josh N, who are, by all accounts, going to be the aggressors in this early game.
Oh, 100%. They are going to be stepping up and, you know, having a little bit of fun in there. But we are sitting here pretty at the start of this game. And I am curious because, you know, you see the early Vayne pickup, and then you also see the early Anivia pickup as well. And it's surprising that Evictix were saying, hey, we're not looking at, like, try and hard punish this, but that is going to be a 1v1 in the bot side, as this is straight up level 1 action, as Dira takes a lot of damage. But honestly, Che able to trade back on Josh N pretty dang well.
Yeah. And Josh N taking the invis level 1 prevents Che from getting that last auto on, so they get a lot of damage onto Dira. Josh takes a bit himself, and a pause on my screen, Orbital, and it looks like we're going to be starting this series off not with a bang, but with technical difficulties.
Yeah, we're going to take a little bit of time, but I want to dive a little bit more into this. Because of the shift that we saw the Wukong change from the jungle into the top, it gave a little bit of open space for Lust Force. And I want to talk about that because essentially their entire comp is layered into the mid to late game, which neuters a little bit of their early game action. They can bring early game, but it's not as strong, right?
Yeah.
Lust Force has to be happy about the fact that you're up against an Amumu instead of a Wukong, right?
I would definitely assume so. I think it's going to be up to Nuffies to really just get some of those early items under control, because it is worth noting that while, yes, you are a very strong duelist as the Dr. Mundo, you do not scale to the level that champions like the Wukong scale, and Wukong is tailor-made to deal with tanks, right? His Q has that armor shred. Wukong himself has that armor. Once that black cleaver gets picked up for Texturus as well, it's going to be very difficult for the front line to survive a lot of these extended trades. So you gotta get the ball rolling early if you are Han, and just making sure that these characters are set up for that late game.
Right now in the mid lane, we are seeing why the Xerath can do a lot of punishing work, though, as anyone that's played this matchup on either end knows that Anivia is not a champion until level 6. It takes a very, very long time, but we are watching also a full-on clear on either end. Lust Force going ahead and clearing out way quicker at the current moment. Smacker just a little bit later, meaning both junglers are going to be on the top side here.
It does also mean that Lust Force will be a little bit quicker toward the top lane, so might be able to punish Texturus, but they have that ward in the tri-bush, so the Wukong will be seen, won't really be able to punish that pick just yet. The priority is relatively neutral in the top lane, so Lust Force being the guy, you know, quicker to the crab will be able to get that. And yeah, he'll also be able to get out. He'll Q, he'll Arctic Assault over the wall, and now we're seeing pings coming out for the bottom side crab, and very good start for the Sejuani so far. You haven't had a lot of agency on the map, but then again, there haven't been a lot of opportunities. These lanes have been very, very quiet, which I have to imagine is a good thing for High Alert Nightmares.
I mean, they're kind of breathing a sigh of relief that they didn't see early punishes. It's coming down kind of to that skill matchup. In my opinion, you're not seeing, you know, heavy aggression in the early game because you have the Twitch and Xerath and all that, and the Amumu. This is Evictix also saying we are going to play for that mid to late. We are going to try and take you at your own game. And I mean, I'd be worried, but yes, you can take a little time, scale up, and maybe even look at this first dragon. You can see the wards going down Che, dropping a tri-bush ward, keeping eyes on where Smacker is going to be in case there is going to be a gank on the bot side.
Yeah, and that little bit of a quicker recall coming out from Smacker as well. Less Force taking that bot side crab means he will be a little bit later up toward that top side, and that could have early implications for these grubs in particular. We're seeing the push come out from Blix. He's going to be getting a reset on this Xerath, but just that little bit of a timing window created here for Evictix, and it looks like Smacker is going to try and use that to punish the bot lane, but they've read that play and are fully prepared to escape it, as you can see on your mini map.
Very, very nice job. And the clearing out is, again, everyone just kind of powering up to level 6. It's going to take some time, as also both mid laners did opt for boots rushes almost immediately. When it comes to skill shots, it makes sense, but it is still funny to me to see mid laners just like, I need those boots like ASAP, or else I'm going to be screwed.
Yeah. And it is also really important to mention that not only are the items really important for the mid laners, the levels are as well. Blix dinging over to level 6 will have the ability to use that ultimate if we fight for these grubs or if we fight for these dragons, but it doesn't look like a fight is currently going to be present. I mean, you see Smacker finishing up his top side clear. He will have access toward the grubs, and I think Less Force, understanding that the priority is not in his favor in top lane, that Nuffies won't be able to rotate if there's a fight, just isn't willing to go that extra mile and cross over that river. So smartly, we'll wait, we'll get the dragons, these late game win conditions starting early here for High Alert Nightmares.
And the fact that they're both matched almost perfectly, but this is going to be a jump in the mid lane. Eudora able to get a very nice Zenith blade, but of course it was a simple stun. And remember, Less Force had just completed Dragon, so you are able to stay safe. Not only that, Prism also went the safer option in the sorcery tree, went for the phase rush instead of trying to get extra damage down instead in the rune tree.
I'm really interested to see what Smacker does after he gets these grubs, though. I mean, he knows that Less Force is on the bot side. There is potential to maybe influence this top lane, but he's not going to want to risk it. And tangentially, it's kind of the same situation on the bot lane, right? We saw Eudora up toward that top side. He's obviously going for the reset, but it did give the Sejuani the opportunity to maybe look for something bot lane. Neither team's, though, really willing to pull the trigger this early on. And again, when you've got that dragon, and we haven't seen a lot of turret plates being taken in these first 7 minutes, it certainly feels like High Alert Nightmares are just getting a little bit further ahead in tempo and set up, despite the fact that the gold lead is slightly in Evictus Amethyst's favor.
As long as it's within, I would say, like 200-300 gold, I think Nightmare are going to be fine. I think they're going to be perfectly okay with this. They're like, hey, we're not that far down. If it reaches that 2 to 3K though, then I'd be sitting there going, okay, you're in trouble. You really need to work on this, and you really need to get this game under control. But of course, they're staying even. Again, this is a net 0 game, and to me, it makes sense. But the fact that no one has been shoved out, I mean, the plates are still relatively even. I don't think anyone's really had a struggle so far.
Good trade there in the mid lane by Prism, utilizing that phase rush to just get a quick little bit of damage and then swiftly move on out. But that mid lane is pushed. You can see Smacker biding his time on the bot side of the map, maybe hoping for an overextension by Che or Dira, but it's not going to happen. Very slow game so far. Neither team really willing to commit to any play. They're just looking to farm on up. And I mean, that farm is seeing we're seeing relatively different stories told in each lane. It's a pretty big gap in favor of Evictix in that top lane. Texturus is certainly having a better time farming out these minions. But then you look at bot lane, it's 12 in favor of Che. It's like a wave in favor of Prism at the moment, and it's almost 20 in favor of Less Force. So this Sejuani has really been outperforming Smacker in tempo. Just look at that difference. And we're only 9 minutes in. As a jungler, this is a pretty big gap.
I think a big part about that, I mean, when we're seeing those 4 camps, that's how we are having this first major gank in the top side. Good stun on that last little E will lead to first blood to Evictix, granted over to Texturus, who did opt for the early grievous wounds, so it did help very, very neatly. But the whole reason Less Force was sitting with a large CS lead, I mean, you take a look at how hard you're power farming.
Yep. And it looks like they want to respond to something on the bot side of the map. Prism is here. All summoners are available for Evictix's bot lane, and the stealth is activated.
Very nice stun, cleanse, and flash out. So it is going to be safe, but top side still being powered down.
Yep, so they will be able to get a plate in response to the bot lane. Texture is getting one for himself up top there. But yeah, I mean, going back kind of to that earlier Wukong play, a large part of the reason they were able to take down Nuffies was because he used that ultimate previously, and now he's gonna look for a trade. Misses that cleaver though, so it dissuades him from going any further. But yeah, he used that ultimate to try and get a little bit more shove a couple of minutes ago, and so because of that, he didn't have his ultimate for survivability. He goes down. The grievous wounds helps with things that it can actually affect, and one of those things is a Mundo without R.
It's huge right there, and very, very well done. Of course, with that, the gold lead is now in the top side, swinging over to Texturous's way. But here's the big deal: we got Grubs coming up in just about 10. We got Dragon up in about 40, and those are going to be the next objectives to play for with ultimates online. Meaning both teams now have the options to try and bring a lot of damage down, and maybe even claim the first to 3 kills.
And Less Force, you can see resetting, has that Heartsteel in inventory, so the Sejuani very, very tanky. There isn't really a member on Evictix Amethyst at this point in time that can take down the Sejuani, especially when you factor in now that Dira has level 6, so the wild growth is there to make the Sejuani even harder to kill. And all the while, you could have Che hitting you in the face. But I like that you mentioned the objectives there. A lot of that priority for the side of Amethyst is on that top side, so naturally, they're going to get the 6 grubs. But on the other side, Han are going to get this dragon. So that late game stacking is still persisting for this red side, but the Nightmares might be forced to respond.
Very nice job. Again, they were first to respond, but it was a little bit slow on the rotation from Evictix. You saw them trying to 2-piece pinch, but it didn't work, allowing Nightmare to go ahead and collect the dragon, which now means it is going to be a last global or last major camp take that'll decide which feat goes the way of either team.
And they don't have vision on Smacker. Otherwise, they could have maybe looked for a dive on the bot lane. Joshin still doesn't have the flash, still doesn't have the cleanse, so this Twitch is defenseless. If this Amumu were to show his face right now, Nightmares would probably be able to turn the lights out on the AD carry for Evictix Amethyst, but he smartly doesn't reveal himself, and so we go right back to this game, sitting at just 1 kill a couple of minutes ago.
And in this mid lane, I would also like to point out Prism is going for a hefty scaling build. I understand this is the norm, but to see it double scaled up means that you are just looking for that pure late game. You're tanky with the eye in there plus the tier, but it is going to be a while before we see any majority share damage come down from that Anivia.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think more power to Prism. We haven't seen a lot of action in the mid lane in particular. I would say that's the lane that's been the quietest, and he's slowly built up around a 20 CS difference over Blix. So I like the scaling coming out, especially when you factor in these dragons are really setting up to be the win con for high alert Nightmares, right? It's not heavy kill counts. It's not going to be, you know, these big ultra massive team fights that will win the game. It will be a more slow, methodical, controlled game that high alert Nightmares just have to take the reins in. As I am currently frozen, Orbital. I don't know if you're seeing that.
I am frozen as well here. There we go.
Right,
now we're back in. We're okay. We're okay.
All right. I got a little bit worried there because we didn't have a pause. So
yeah.
But I'm glad we're back.
Yo, we're right back in the game. No worries at all. What I will say though is, again, I will say I'm a little bit frustrated at the build path. Blix is building very, very damage heavy, but that's gonna be the chase in. But again, you went Hextech Companion trying to get that last shot down. You do land it, but it doesn't have the burn, so you are safe. Nuffy says, I'm okay. But a rotate into Less Force in a 1v3 says, nope, I'm just here to try and save the towers. So well done by Nuffy to go ahead and sidestep a lot of that damage.
Yup, Nuffy's manages to get out there. He uses the ultimate and he heals up enough to escape. But now Prism, he's getting a lot of turret plates here, but he's simultaneously being flanked. He has no help in the area. The only thing he has is flash.
Good flash out, but that is going to be a flash into the Cursed Sad Mummy. And right now, they're going to try and force this. Prism gets the wild growth and is going to stay alive for a little bit longer. Great stun onto Leona, and you're dodging, you're dipping, you're diving, and you're safe. You're underneath tower. You're underneath tower. The egg is perfectly timed. Well done by Nightmare.
And the survivability of high alert Nightmares Evictix. Their patience is starting to get tested. They want to try and accelerate this game, accelerate these solo laners, but the defense coming out here from Han is enough to wane off those attacks. And now that's a lot of summoners burned. That's a lot of ultimates burned. This gives the opportunity for High Alert Nightmares to set up toward that bot side. Orbital, we're only about 15 and a half minutes into the game, and Han had the ability to go onto Soul Point, and not just any Soul Point, but Mounted Soul as well. We talked about the survivability needed from these tankier members on Han, and a Mountain Soul would certainly deliver that in droves if they managed to get it.
Oh, of course, and I want to harken back to what I was talking about. Blix is going for a more raw AP build, but you take a look at the build path for just about everyone on Han's side, and it's just like, who are you going to burst? Like, I'm sorry to say, you're not going to burst through anyone. Honestly, I would prefer to see a melting style. You get the Leandries in there, you get a little bit of Blackfire Torch, and then you do work there. But for Prism, instead, now you're starting to ramp up the damage. Take a look at that. Single combo takes Josh N's HP down to about half, and now we're going to get a little bit of retribution. Yeah, huge shots ringing out here. Last one, dodge, but a flash forward will give Josh N that finish.
Yep, so it is going to be a kill going over to the Twitch, who has that Blade of the Ruin King complete. But all things considered, you know, Flash Cleanse used by the Twitch, one of the big hyper carries of Evictix Amethyst right before this dragon spawns, could put him in a bit of a compromising position if Han decided to fight for that dragon, which it doesn't look like they are going to. They're conceding the bot side of the map. The screen for them is very, very dark on that bot side. Instead, they are going to go for a cross-map play, the strategy that they have been cultivating this entire game, Orbital. When there is a fight to be had, go to the other end, avoid and evade. They're the airbenders, if you will. They're using those last airbender tactics that Aang used.
Well, right now the air is swinging just well because the frost is freezing over, but of course Prism is realizing, hey, they are not alone. Great double stun up, but the HP bar is not there, so it's a 4-piece in the bot side, also leaving the first tower plus 3 kills means Evictix are going to get the boots, which they have not upgraded just yet.
Nope, not just yet, but it also means that they committed so much manpower to killing that Anivia that they leave themselves vulnerable to giving up that bot side river. Smacker might be looking for a steal, but that is going to be a one-way trip. And yeah, he doesn't want to take that. Smart move, especially when you have a bounty as the Samumu. You don't want to give that over for free over to the side of High Alert Nightmares. But it also means that is Soul Point. 17 minutes into the game, Orbital, the late game win condition is starting to speed up, and the walls are starting to close for Evictix Amethyst, despite the fact that they have the kills in their inventory.
Yeah, they have a decent chunk, but they're still waiting to kind of scale up here, and I'm waiting for Josh N to group up with the rest of the team. I'd also like to point out, for a little bit of fun, I'm waiting to see where Less Force gets their first stacks on the Heartsteel. They've had that in their inventory since, what, minute 7 or 8, and they just haven't gotten anything, so it's just like, oof, all right. Well, Prism, though, is not enjoying the fact that they are getting ganked in the top side. Once again, no egg to work for, and so it's an easy pickup. Texturous is like, that's perfect. Evictix able to reap one more kill. Josh N, though, realizing that, hey, I got free, and they go straight on the support, which I appreciate. Blix with the long range kill, and now all of a sudden danger is abound. Nightmare realizing they're in the wrong space at the wrong time. Less Force watches the ADC get away, but now has to chase for their own. Nuffies, I'm not sure, wants to be here in the 5v1 as the Evictix are showing coordination taking this mid lane tower.
Yeah, really smart move there from Eudora to actually go for the Lulu. He didn't opt to go right onto Che. Recognized that this Vayne is very slippery. Had that flash, had that cleanse, had that final hour, and so you go for the champion. You know you can lock down, and you know you can take down Dira, the first and only casualty of that exchange. But it does mean another kill and another advantage given over to Evictix Amethyst. And they don't have the objectives, they may not have the dragons, but they do have the kills, they do have the power-ups from this Wukong, and now I would say from this Twitch. And they're really going to have to hope that these win conditions are enough to carry them in this next dragon fight in about 3 minutes. Because if that soul goes over to Han, the game becomes not necessarily unwinnable, but a hell of a lot more difficult.
Yep, it's going to be a problem trying to chew through those extra resistances and the like. But of course, the upgraded boots for free is going to help a little bit. But Texturous is now realizing that they might be in a little bit of a rough spot. It'll be easy auto attacks, but a double cyclone into the Curse of the Satin Mummy. Texturous, that has to feel good considering Last Force stopped for a ward.
Yeah, I mean, Smacker flashed over the wall to avoid Lust Force and ended up going right on to Nuffies, who walked forward. So that giant wall wasn't able to provide the space for the Sejuani to join up with his top laner, but it was enough for the Amumi to join up with his. It's another kill given over to Texturous, and this Wukong now 3-0 has those Merc Treads complete. So along with the dummy and along with the W, it's going to be very hard to lock down Texturous with all the strength and all the items that he has. Now, though, it's been a very quiet game, Orbital, which means Voracious is going to be the dragon of the day, and I have to think that feels a little bit bad for High Alert Nightmares, who have these 3 dragons and would really like the power up that Ruinous could give you.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, the Otacon is just chilling up there right now. I don't know if Lust Force is going to actively chase in, because of course Texturous is doing very well for themselves. Keep that in mind. Texturous is still up there, 3-0, went for the Triforce early, has gotten multiple components into their bank, so should be a pain. But take a look at this 4v1 on this top side, whereas Prism is holding out on this bottom side, just trying to hold the lane and make sure the wave doesn't get caught, but nothing happens on this top lane. So HAN saying, okay, we can't stay here.
Yep, they have to clear the mid lane wave, and all the while, you can see that Evictix and more specifically Eudora have placed down little pockets of vision in that topside river. This Leona really working to just turn that top river into a as dark as a nightmare, if you will, for the High Alert Nightmares. But I don't expect we're going to be seeing a lot of priority and a lot of haste be put onto taking this Voracious Otacon just yet. And I feel like High Alert Nightmares are really trying to force this issue. They're placing the Herald in the top lane to try and apply pressure up there and utilize it for the Otacon, but you don't have to take the Otacon right away if you are Han. There is a dragon spawning in 20 seconds that you want.
And not only that, you're trying to kind of free up Nuffies to actually start rotating out. That's why they're applying so much pressure up to the top side. But Evictix have such quick roaming that they're able to match almost within about 20 seconds of a push occurring. You actually just saw that. That was a Herald drop. It only got a punch off. It wasn't able to break tower, meaning Nuffies is pretty much going to stay up there for the rest of the time as Che and the rest of the squad have to rotate around, hold on to mid and bot lane.
And Lust Force taking that damage means that he is not going to be able to just cross on over healthily toward that dragon. And Evictix owning this bot side river are going to be able to stop the dragon soul being taken by High Alert Nightmares, at least for the time being. But they're just a little too late. I mean, you could see the pinks coming out for Voracious Otacon, but you had to go for that reset. You had to go heal on up and push out that mid wave. Them going for this objective is incredibly forced. After all, they're also on vision, Orbital.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this one. This is a full TP. This is going to be a 5v5.
This is a Hail Mary.
Yeah, Otacon takes a while to go down, especially because your Vayne isn't that strong. So take a look at this collection. They immediately veer off Dira, who is caught like a deer in the headlights, and they are gone. Now Texturous going straight on in, gets changed up, gets CC'd, but guess what? The main objective is once again the Otacon. In goes the Curse Mummy on 4, cleanses out, so it might be the bottleneck that you're looking for. But Ruinous Otacon is able to find it away. Last Source is able to grab it, which means they got the extra HP and they got the extra life. They get another catch on the Q. Great stun in the wall, shut down over to Prism, and it's a fight that HAN were hoping for.
I think Textures and Smack are just going that little bit too far. They found the pick onto Dira. It was a 4v5 situation. If they let it go and control that Tribush, that fight could have gone so much more differently, as Che is going to potentially lose his Otacon buff to the minions. Flash there from Blix to try and take it off. But a miracle fight there coming out from High Alert Nightmares. They get the jungler, they get the Otacon, they get the fight win, and suddenly this game is turned on its head out of nowhere.
I mean, it felt like the compositions went a little bit too far on either end. You look at what Nightmare were hoping for, and they said, okay, we need to bottleneck. We need to use this Anivia. We need to get the damage down. And they were able to pull that off. Dira dying feels bad. You know, rough time. But Evictix pushing just a little bit too far. And we're starting to see what happens when they have an unfortunate breakdown. Granted, about 3 out of the 5 were focused on Otacon, so I understand why the fight went sideways.
Yeah, I mean,
do not foresee that happening again.
They were super duper split on that decision. I mean, you could see Josh and Blix were focused on trying to take down that Otacon, but I feel like really the deciding factor of that fight was definitely the Amumu deciding to go forward and join up with his top laner, right? If the Amumu simply smites that away and remains with his bot side on that objective, then even if you lose that fight, you've got the Otacon to instantly revive you and call it a day. If nothing else, you lose a couple of members and can really just afford you at this point can afford to do that, but now it's a whole different ball game as now Texturous is in trouble.
No, we're starting to see a shift here. Multiple pings going down as well. This is a rush onto the Baron, but it makes sense when you have all the extra lives. But take a look at how quickly they're rotating in. Is going to be Evictix saying, hey, we're here to play. Chase in. Lester said, yo, this is my, what a CC over the wall. They catch Blix, who is now CC'd out and has no flash. This is the downside of an immobile mage. And another one rocking as Josh and has no out either. Cleanse ain't going to save you here. And just the bulwark, the meatballs of Han go ahead and secure 2.
And one thing leads to another. Texturous, he was forced to go back. He didn't have teleport to join up with his team. The main carry for Evictix, Amethyst, was not present in that fight. And so High Alert Nightmares turn the map dark. And now they're going to try and turn the map purple as they get the Baron. All 5 members sporting that buff. And about 90 seconds until that dragon spawns, they're going to look to push out that mid lane, look to push out that bot lane, establish pressure on that bot side river. And once that soul is complete, they can really start thinking about how to close this one out, Orbital.
Yeah, they're just going to go ahead and just feel comfortable here. The stacks are stacking. The Nightmare increases, and eventually it's going to reach paranoia levels as Nocturne might as well be on the field. We are looking at this dragon once again, and for the side of HAN, I expect them to do quite well if they're able to punch out the waves, and maybe even if Nuffies is able to get some freedom on this top side. I mean, Texturous is trying their best.
Yeah, but at this point, I mean, you've got almost 3 items on Nuffies. He is relatively difficult to kill at this point. I mean, a champion like Wukong, who has that built-in armor shred, will be able to accomplish it eventually, but now the fights have gone from extended to very, very quick, with Che going close to 3 items, with Prism having unlocked all 10 stacks of his Roa. The scaling on High Alert Nightmares has officially peaked at this point in the game, and it feels like Evictix are running out of options on how to deal with it as another tower in the bot lane falls and more space is given over to Han.
Yeah, this is going to be that problem that we're seeing just kind of right around the map. I mean, Josh N is also sitting on a fairly low-end purchase. I mean, there's not much power and oomph behind it. You are hoping to get some extra help. You're hoping Blix is able to throw down, which again, they swapped from that Luna's Companion over to the Leandres, but still put you at a really dangerous pace. Eudora's trying to run interference, but it doesn't help, and it's just going to be the pin against the wall. Josh is gone. If you've ever seen a steamroll occur, this is what it's like. 3 to Han as they look to end this game.
Yeah, they're saying screw the dragon. You've got about 30 seconds on the death timers. Maybe you don't end the game, but you at least get the inhibitor and potentially even get some of those Nexus turrets. But High Alert Nightmares have to be careful and have to be very sure that this is the play that they actually want, because keep in mind, those Nexus turrets, they respawn. Game-ending pushes are not as defined as they were in previous seasons, and I think Han know that, especially with the wave thinning on out. They are just going to leave after the inhibitor. They're going to take that soul. And what an excellent fight for High Alert Nightmares there. Prism finding a golden angle with that wall and that ultimate to just be able to melt down Blix and the rest of the backline from Evictix Amethyst.
Oh, crazy work The downfall is occurring here, as that's going to be a long range arcane barrage, and that's just trying to push Prism out of that bottom lane. This is amazing work. A Nightmare from sitting at 6-0, I believe, down about 1,000 to 2,000 gold, have quite literally team fought their way back to victory. I don't think they've had a single full team fight loss, at all.
Yeah, I mean, they call themselves the Nightmare, but everything past 15 minutes has been an absolute dream for them, right? We got really worried after that dragon initially went the way of Evictix when that soul was denied from Han, but then they find a perfect team fight on that Otacon. They turn the game around, and since then they have not dropped the ball.
See what they can do here, because again, we need to see these rotations work. This is a squad for Nightmare. They have a chance. We're seeing the strength of this composition, and we're seeing how they like to play, but we need to see that they can also close out a game, and one of those ways is to find a roaming jungler. That's gonna be a great wall. There is no flash, and Smacker's gone. Smacker is just gone.
Get walled, idiot, as Prism is going to prevent his escape and assume his death. Jungler down for Evictix Amethyst. No longer does Han have that Baron buff, though, so ending the game might be a little bit more difficult, but when you have a champion like Anivia who buys space for free practically, it is a lot easier to at least levy out the threats that your backline could be facing. It's very difficult for Evictix X to actually punish these overextensions with that Anivia and with that Lulu just constantly backing the tanky front line.
I just don't think it's going to end anytime soon either, and we are just waiting for when it boils over. I think for Evictix, they're sitting here going, wow, I can't believe we're still alive right now. We're about 31 minutes into the game, and they haven't tried to close out the game just yet. Awesome. Yeah. Let's keep trying to farm up. I'm waiting to see where Josh N is able to pick up. They go for that last whip. They're looking for just a little extra oomph behind as much as possible, but that's only the third item. Take a look, Shay already building into their fourth.
Yeah, I mean, Shay built up a pretty sizable gold lead over Josh, and we saw the CS difference right from the get-go from the Vayne, but then the moment this game kind of hit mid-game territory and the Vayne was allowed to roam up with the rest of their team, got some of those kills and had the backing of that topside front line, it became a whole different ballpark. Because now Eudora, no flash, and I've seen this story before, Orbital, but it's not going to have the same ending as the bird. Will allow the Leona to get away this time, but no ward will be getting away from the sights of Dira and Prism and Less Forces. They are just cleaning house on that topside river in preparation for this Baron.
Yeah, this is gonna be that comfortable position. Take a look at that. There's a TP coming in here, but Texturous, I don't know what they're gonna be able to do. This is gonna be a 4v4 position, and we'll see if it helps out. They're gonna try and turn it around. Texturous is able to find two. Less Source is trying to run interference, but that is gonna be the Cursed Sad Mummy landing on Chain. Chain trying to flash away, gets the Wild Growth, is firing off the bolt, and is able to do work, but is only able to get one. In comes Nuffies, though, saying hello from the other side, and Prism says, cool, let's fight. Josh N has no way out. Eudora trying to flash over the wall, but barely getting there. What a call over the wall, though, as an iceberg hits you on the back of the head. It's a double kill for Prism as Han rush to take more kills.
And it was initially a late response there from Han, but they smacked down just as hard. Prism teleporting to the mid wave. They want to end this game, Orbital. They're down in 80 carry, but it does not matter as Nuffies walks through the turret with no fear.
This is going to be game. A delayed ace, but ace all through, as that will be on HAN. High alert on maximum alert as they cruise to a game 1 victory. The Reapers will reap no more.
And we went very, very quickly from 0 to 100 in this game, Orbital. It started out being quite literally 0 kills given over to Han. They immediately win out in a fight, and suddenly the map, the game, and the first win of this series is theirs. What a stark turnaround from what we saw in that early game, but the seeds were planted right from the get-go, right? They got 3 dragons at the 17-minute mark. They were setting up for that late game. They weren't taking any unnecessary fights. There was just a few picks at that point going over to the side of Evictix Amethyst, and the moment team fights reared their ugly head, exactly what happened in this game. High Alert Nightmares managed to take that one. Amazing patience from them, really good strategy, and overall, I feel like Evictix Amethyst, they're probably amethyst in the cheeks right now. Their cheeks are probably red and purple with rage because they had that game in the bag, it felt like. I mean, we see the gold graph here. It was almost 6,000, around 5,000 actually for the Amethysts, but you see that go down real fast around that 25-minute mark. It was definitely winnable for them, and I have to imagine in game number 2, they will be striking back with a fury.
They're going to try their best to do so. And of course, for us, we will go to a very short break to see if anything will shift up, if we're going to see Evictix change up their tactics, maybe go to that red side or stay on the blue side, as game 1 just did not go the way. ADL will continue in just a bit, so do not go anywhere.
Try to make yourself remember, darling. Don't look for me, I'm just a story you've been told. So let's pretend a little longer, 'cause when we're gone, everything goes on. You were staring at the window, and I said, I wanna take you to the sea. And when I'm better, we'll do everything. I gotta stop making promises I can't keep. But if I was gone tomorrow, won't the waves crash on? Is it selfish that I'm happy as we pass the setting sun? Someday I'll be overcast, but you won't have to cry, 'cause we'll do the grieving while I'm by your side. I said, don't try to make yourself remember, darling. Don't look for me, I'm just a story you've been told. So let's so scared of getting used to this. All the vines that keep you tethered in your room. Well, someday both of us are leaving here, but for now I'll just bring this seed to you. Will you meet me in the daylight like we did before? Then I felt you on my shoulder and you weren't suffering anymore. You said I'm sorry that you worried, but don't apologize. I told you to forget me, but you stayed by my side when I said, don't try to make yourself remember, darling. Don't look for me, I'm just a story you've been told. So let's pretend a little longer, and when we're gone, everything goes on. Tell me where do I go? Tell me where do I take us? Your heart is starting to slow. May the water be safe. As I dive in, bloodstains washing underneath the waves.
Took no time at all as we're already into game number 2's draft, and you can already see where they're opting to force their bans. The Lulu automatically taken away. Evictix like that is too much of a safe card. We can't let that one through. Double AP still banned away though, as the Ari is taken away from that mid lane, and same with possibly the Cassiopeia.
Yup, so it is looking like we're seeing similar bans to game 1 coming out here, Orbital. Nothing too different, but it is also worth noting that we are not in Fearless, ladies and gentlemen. So the same thing that can be picked in game number 1, or the same things that were picked, rather, in game number 1 can be picked in game number 2. That's why you're seeing bans like the Lulu come out, and I like actually seeing that coming out from Evictix, right? Lulu as a champion is so unbelievably versatile with a lot of these hyper carries, and you can see a lot of those hyper carries are being banned away. The Jinx is taken off the table. The Corki is taken off the table. Now I wonder, with all of those taken away, if Evictix's priority will be back in that bot lane, or if they're going to prioritize another flex, potentially the same flex that we saw in game number 1.
Which it did work to an extent. We saw the early game, the Wukong was able to get value in the top lane early game, but we did notice that it really shuttered pace once it reached the mid game. So if it is going top lane again, we'll see if it brings any other value in there. But we do know that for High Alert Nightmare, they had a response, which I do appreciate, but it came much later in the draft. They needed to see where the Wukong was going to go. When we look at the second round of pickups, we saw, I believe it was not the Lulu, it was a Sejuani, as well as that no, it was Sejuani and the Lulu at that time.
Yes.
You're going for more of an assassination style with the Diana blind.
So I like this a little bit more. This spells that Han are really willing to get into the nitty gritty of a lot of these team fights. When you have a champion like a Diana, it would be really nice to pair up with a Lulu, but I'm thinking maybe something like Emilio could also go a long ways, just for all the healing and shielding that it can provide. Nami can do a similar thing, but we are instead going to go to where that 80 carry role, the Ezreal, going to be snatched on up away by High Alert Nightmares. Now, Evictix, they have a bit of a choice to make. They can run back that hyper carry style in the bot lane, or they can try and match what the Ezreal is going to be doing and simply poking out, farming in the early game, and really try to get the gas going in that late game.
Yeah, this is going to be that that little bit of a test here, as we are looking for the chase ability instead, with that Kaisa trying to read into the Ezreal as much as possible, which I do appreciate at the end of the day. But what are you going to pair with it? This leads into, if you're going for that engagement, you can go with the Nautilus. The Leona is still available. I mean, Rel, if you really want that crash down, can bring a lot of viability to the table, and it is going to be that Rel hover, which makes sense. It can deny as well as impose its will if you so wish to get into the mix.
So now this leaves open a lot of interesting connector pieces onto the side of Evictix Amethyst, right? I mean, you've got things like the Rel, you've got things like the Wukong. The Kaisa is going to kind of be the final blow to a lot of these team fights, but the setup is there for the side of Evictix. So I'm wondering if this is actually going to be a flex Wukong, if we are going to see it in the top lane, or maybe they're going to switch it up toward the jungle. I would prefer, as a Wukong player, to not have to go against a champion like Diana, because you have that stone skin, which goes for armor, does not go for magic resist. So Wukong is susceptible to getting out-traded by a lot of these magic damage champions. Diana is certainly included in that. But Han's response to this engage is going to be a little bit of disengage. It looks like Orbital, and I like the Poppy pickup. It provides a lot of space for the Ezreal to work with in the laning phase, and it provides a lot of that engage from happening to start up those team fights for the side of the Evictix Amethyst.
Yep, give it a little bit of time, and then you can go ahead and kind of really ramp up if you so wish. But again, Lissandra makes sense. You still don't want to give that safety value over. The Xerath honestly didn't look that great. Again, the build path just seemed a little bit all over the place. If you're going for raw burst, go for raw burst. If you're going for burn, go for burn. There is going to be a nice setup ban though. Again, the Orianna was banned away last time as well, but the Nightmare, this one, it would make so much sense to see an Orianna come out with the Diana and Poppy.
Yep, so now I'm wondering, with the Orianna taken off the table and a lot of these mid lane mages kind of being constricted, the Lissandra also going to be absent from game number 2, where the mindset is going to be at for Han. Obviously, the Xerath is still up and available, but I was actually thinking the Syndra could be up until it got banned away. So we're really just constricting these champion pools, Orbital. The big fat question is going to be, who will be in this mid lane? The Yone is still up and available if you want to have a really strong jungle mid 2v2 on the side of Han, and it also provides you a little bit of flex. So I wouldn't hate that pick, especially when you've already got that magic damage nailed down.
Of course, might as well go ahead and get a little bit of a mix going here, and you know, have a little bit of fun in there as well. But again, as you said, this mid lane is going to be drastically different. I think it's just going to be a weird little touch there. The Talia makes sense. This is almost
disengage.
Yeah, full disengage coming out. They had the Diana to go in, but I'm not seeing a follow-up unless you're counting the Poppy to be one.
Yeah, this is an interesting setup coming out here from Han. They're just willing to get engaged on, and then immediately, you know, you can disengage those members, potentially isolate some of those frontliners like the Wukong or the Rel. Now, though, Evictix are potentially going a little bit outside the box with picks here. This would be a very unorthodox champion locked in here, and would create even more flexes for the Amethysts than they already have in that Wukong. Yes, the Echo will be locked on away. Now the question is, where will this Wukong be going, Orbital? We're expecting this Echo to probably be in the jungle, so that would mean Wukong is most likely going to go into the top lane again, and maybe I spoke too soon.
Maybe. I mean, it's still... I will say this is okay. So there's a shift there. It's still a flex one way or another if we do get the Volibear locked in. So it's going to be interesting. What I will say though is these are two drastically different compositions than we saw in game 1. This is much more mechanically proficient, I think.
Yes.
When we looked at game 1, this was very much a meatball style. You clash together, you pray that you don't get locked in the corner, and you try and win out that way. I mean, the Mundo and the Sejuani in game 1 were pivotal for High Alert and Nightmare. Right now, you're playing such a defensive style keep away comp that doesn't have a lot of HP behind it. I'm very curious to see if you're able to play double styles here and get away with it, as it looks like we are going to get that last pickup here. We'll get information on what that champion is, but for Evictix, they are going for a pretty nice versatile style. This has a lot more flexibility in how they want to approach a fight.
It also has a lot of magic damage, right? I mean, we're expecting Volibear to probably be more AP centric centric rather than just full tank. The Echo obviously deals magic damage. The Kaisa has mixed damage. So it's going to be up to the Poppy. And now I'm getting word the Warwick to be kind of those ones soaking up a lot of the pressure. And that is a really interesting top lane pick. I was thinking we could see something like a Cho'Gath, right, for the disengage and the just extra tankiness. Maybe even a Cassante, right, to eject some of those engagers out of a fight. But the Warwick also provides a lot more commitment toward that laning phase, right? You're expecting this Warwick to terrorize that early game. So the Diana's attention and simultaneously the Poppy, and eventually when she gets the Weaver's Wall, the Talia, they're going to have to pay some respects over to that top side. We said it was all on the bot side to get that attention in game number one. Now it's kind of the opposite, with the Ezreal sitting behind and not taking up a ton of space and a ton of resources, and the Warwick going to be the one that they really want to unlock in a lot of these fights.
Oh, that'll be interesting. And I mean, for Evictix, I'm wondering how this bot lane and how this mid lane is going to roll out. The Echo is such a drastically different champion here. For Evictix, do you think this is a composition that can overcome the barriers that they had in game number one?
I think that this has a lot more variance than game number one, right? It kind of felt like once Evictix dropped that like first team fight, the game was all downhill from there. There wasn't really a chance to come back from the insurmountable dragon lead that Han had, from the team fighting abilities that those champions on Han had. Now, though, I feel like there is a lot more of an X factor to this comp. Kaisa can outplay a lot of these situations. Echo can outplay a lot of these situations. Volibear can out-heal to insane degrees a lot of these situations. So there is a lot more opportunity, I think, for Evictix to get out of a sticky situation if they were to find themselves in one, assuming that Han are able to kind of take the reins of this game number two right off the rip, which is also debatable. When you have champions like Volibear and Kaisa and Wukong who can really shape up this early to mid game, you're expecting these guys to run the rift, get these early objectives, and that's the number one thing that we have to be on the lookout for here, Orbital. It was the biggest thing that caused Han to win game number one. 3 dragons, and there was very little that Evictix could do after that one team fight win from High Alert Nightmare. So you got to pay more attention to those objectives. You got to pay more attention to that scaling. Han has a scaling comp yet again. Pay some respects to that bottom side objective.
All right, well, we'll see if they can do it right now. We are headed into game 2 to see if Evictix will be able to turn it around and move to a game 3, or if High Alert Nightmare will claim their rightful place as a victory and maybe get their series score up to 1-1. Don't go anywhere. The ADL will be right back. You can ask for a better way to run this show, as we are right back in Evictix on that blue side saying, yes, please give us this option. And this time around with a little bit more flexible composition for the side of High Alert Nightmare, though. They're looking for a little bit more of a song and dance. A lot of AP on their side as well with the Diana in the jungle, but the Warwick top going to be messing around against Texturous with a barrier flash versus an ignite flash.
Yeah, so a lot of action to be expected up toward this top side, and kind of a different style here for the Warwick than the rest of his team. I mean, when you compare champions like Warwick and Diana, as well as Ezreal, to what they actually want to accomplish, it is very night and day. You know, the Diana, the Talia, they want to go toward that late game. They want to farm up and have as peaceful of a game as humanly possible. But the Warwick wants to turn this game into a Doom single-player campaign and really get his foot on the ground early. So I'm wondering how this is going to affect the Diana in particular. Are we going to be seeing what we, something different from this Diana? Maybe not necessarily a full clear coming out from Less Force. Instead, maybe they sack some camps in favor of helping their top laner. But that could affect them in a little bit of negative ways.
Yeah, and Dira was looking for a little extra damage as well, but unfortunately it didn't work out as well as you wanted. Early level ones being traded on either end. This is going to be a lethal tempo on the side of Nuffies versus the Conqueror for Texturous. So,
yep.
You know, and again, for Warwick, you're okay taking that trade as long as you're able to heal up on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Evictix are, like we said, really wanting to get a lot done on that top side, especially with Texturous rocking that ignite. But I like the response coming out here from High Alert Nightmares. They have that ward on the Raptor, so they will be able to spot out Smacker and at least get some tracking done on the Volibear. You can now see that Nuffy is pushing in that top wave, is going to go on down, continue to spot out where this Volibear will be going if he decides to cut his pathing and influence this top lane, or maybe Nuffies wants to influence a little bit of this Smacker's pathing for him, as he is actually level 2 messing with the Volibear, but he's now on the wrong side of the map.
Yeah, and I think he's actually going to go down here. There is no help coming. It's a 1v3. I'm not really sure what you're aiming to do right now. So that's a flash over by Blix, and you even burn the barrier. So Nuffies expending a lot for a lot of nothing.
That feels like a very, very miscalculated play coming out from the top laner of High Alert Nightmares. I feel like you have to understand that you're not getting out at this point in time. The wave is pushed back, so Texturous is on his way. Smacker is alive. Blix doesn't have to catch a wave under his tower, so 3 members are descending on you. And I feel like the worst thing you can do at that point in time is burn your flash. And not only does he burn the flash, he burns his barrier orbital. So the kill threat of this Warwick has been stifled significantly for the next couple of minutes.
And even in the mid lane, Prism, even though that Blix doesn't have their flash, it might even be a bait, as that might be another sling. It is going to be caught, but this is still going to be a regank in the mid lane. But a 1v2 means that you aren't really going to have that choice. Smacker can't help out.
Yep, so Prism is going to be able to cut the map and push this mid wave in. I'm interested to see what Smacker does. He's going to be taking that top side crab, and maybe he wants to look for the respawned Raptors. It looks like he does, but he is not going to be able to get there in time, as it looks like the Diana will steal those away before he can do anything.
Well,
no, he actually does get those.
Yeah, I think he did. So now up about 2 camps over the lane of over the jungle, and Less Force is like, dang, really, that just happened. So
yeah,
feels a little bit bad, but we're getting it again. Take a look at where Nuffies is. Okay, okay, no, just drop it a word. That's fine.
Nope.
That's fine.
Nope, I was thinking maybe he would go for a proxy farm, but there wouldn't have been really a wave to catch. But yeah, he just goes for that deep ward, and a lot of action has befell the Rift 4 minutes in, though. Prism getting that kill, not having to expend that flash, means that this Talia will be able to provide a lot of pressure in this mid lane. And with Diana continuing to farm, and who will now be on this bot side, I'm wondering if that dragon is going to be the target of Less Force in these coming minutes.
I could see it going down, quite honestly, and I could again see it rearing its head as a staple go-to, but this time Smacker is going to answer back at level 5, already got an assist, so might be able to have a little bit of an advantage. You already see the pings going down as Less Force was saying, yeah, they're going to rotate in, and Prism isn't really there to help out. So a 1v2 run out as Less Force isn't going to enjoy this one, but Nuffy's going ahead and trading out against Texturous, healing up, waiting for that level 6.
You can see Less Force also kind of pushed out of his own jungle after he gets that clear. He doesn't really have a window in toward the bot side river because the wave is pushing for the bot lane. Ezreal, Che is on the reset. So all of this in mind, Smacker is just going to start up the dragon as Dira's going in.
Oh no, I'm not sure about this one, as this is going to be a peel off, by the way. Less Force and Dira force the flash out of Eudora, but guess who's not around? Dira is caught and you are gone. Early kills going Evictix way. Dragon is reset. That is a huge goal that may or may not be identified by High Alert Noon. Look
at Nuffy's. Nuffy's is crossing over to the mid lane. You can see Evictix are going to have to respect this, but the Infinite Duress is up.
Oh, and a very nice catch into what could be an ult, but I mean, Nuffy's just waiting. That is going to be the ult out. Easy grab. I mean, there's not much you can do. There was no flash, and it is Dragon over to High Alert Nightmare.
Oh man, Blix is going to be hearing Maroon 5 for the next couple of seconds. The poor man gets taken down. A kill goes over to Nuffy's. A dragon goes over to High Alert Nightmares. And Evictix X, let's see, do they have anything to put on the board for it?
Oh, barrier is up, and Nuffy's might be able to heal out. It looks like he did. That is rude stuff coming out of Nuffy's right there.
And that's the power of the Warwick. That's why you draft this champion. But Prism, path toward the top side. He actually used his ultimate. Now he might not have anywhere to go. Good seismic shove. But they have a numbers advantage for the time being. I mean, Texturous is just now respawning back toward his own lane. So we'll have to see if there's a response coming out here from High Alert Nightmares toward those grubs. Or if, they're just going to take the reset and live to fight another day. Good job on them to just not overextend their bounds.
Yeah, I can agree with that one. And right now we are seeing a chase into the grubs right now. So Smacker trying to get something from this engagement, as the first feat did go the way of HAN. They're very happy about this one. Plates all around, still leaning, I think, into Evictix way in the mid lane. I think there was at least like 1 or 2 taken there. So, you know, here and there we're seeing those glimpses of glory. But overall, an even state, 11 to 11.8 to about 12K on either end.
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of that gold for Han be generated toward the top side of the map, and that's exactly what they want, right? We expect this bot lane to be very quiet, as now Nuffy's might be in trouble.
Yeah, and there's no way out. That is just raw damage going down here. Blix, of course, trying to dance outside of this tower, and the stones are going to do enough work to force him off. But top side, Smacker and Texture is starting to get a good handle on how they want to deal with Nuffy's.
And Less Force about to finish up his side of the camp, so he will be taking this grump, then we'll immediately finish the blue as Blix is forced to ult out of their Prism, almost getting that kill as Smacker. You know it's bad when Volibear has to cut what he's doing in order to just scare off the Taliyah from killing the mid laner. This is a rough spot to be in as the Echo.
And right now we're seeing also a chase in. I mean, if you're looking at Blix, you do have the TP to get back, but that's going to be Nuffy just running right past and saying, let's go ahead and fight, but you jump a little bit too far, and now it's going to be a chance out. Clone in, clone out, and now you ult to it's still going to trade out a 1-for-1. And that's just Nuffy's being a giant pain in the butt, which honestly, I think is still a win for Nightmare.
I mean, it's another kill going over to Smacker, though, and ordinarily you would say that this is a good thing for Han. You know, you're keeping up the win condition of this Warwick, but you're simultaneously giving the early game win con of Evictix, Amethyst, his own generation of gold. Ordinarily, you would expect the Diana to heavily out CS a champion like Volibear, who's more focused on ganking, and that has been the case, but that gold lead is made up for by the fact that this Volibear is getting kill after kill and having so much presence on the map that has allowed him to keep up with this Diana.
100%. They're just taking a little bit of time and really keeping themselves in a good mix. We're seeing that bot side also lose out on a single plate, and it looks like we have a little bit of rotation as Nuffy's hanging on to this mid lane, helping out their laner. And making sure that the wave isn't pressed too far out. Nuffy's even going for a little bit of the hard hitting side. Still very squishy, but is able to hold the lane and allow Prism to get back without using that TP, maybe even forcing Blix to use that TP in turn.
It's enough. He's covering up the mid lane. Now will be sent back toward the top side of map. And Dragon going to be up in about a minute's time. You can see both junglers have materialized toward the bottom half of the map and are maybe looking to influence the bottom lane, which so far hasn't seen a ton of action. But as long as you can get, you know, shove in that lane as Prism.
Oh no, that's flash forward, and now Prism might actually be stuck here. This damage is going to be good, and that's actually a big win for Blix. You go ahead and burn that flash, and you're still out and alive. You do lose pace, though, as Nuffy uses to chase. This is going to be an ult under tower. It's easy work. That is brutal shellacking here, as it will be traded out. I believe Smacker is there and waiting. I think they're going to be more than okay with this turn on the... No way. Ain't no way. No. Do you get away? You're gone. Nuffies is allowed to recall. That is wild.
All of that time and dedication to trying to find the Warwick means that the bot side river is also open for the taking by High Alert Nightmares. They can just put members on this side of the map, and suddenly they're in control of the river. They're in control of the dragon. This is just like game number 1 Orbital. How do they keep getting away with it? They can't keep getting away with it.
It is pure chaos into the game win. That's what it feels like. At least Nuffies has been a resilient annoyance in and around. And I mean, working off of Prism's value, you know that the Echo is going to be taken low in most cases. It is just how it plays out unless you get great burst down and get early wins. And then you just dive. You say, screw it. It doesn't matter. As long as I get the kill and as long as I can scale up. That is one of the most blatant solo queue-esque mindsets I've seen out of the top laner in ages.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Nuffies embodies the solo queue top laner to a T. This guy. Ever since he started playing competitive, I feel like I've been playing a solo queue match whenever I've watched or casted or hell even played against the guy. But it's working out for them for the time being. I mean, this Warwick is applying so much pressure with that blood hunt around the map, just picking off these low health stragglers. But the big $1 million question that I have is, what is this Warwick's job going to be once this game hits those middle phases to late game phases where you are going to have to be dealing with Evictix Amethyst grouped on up, where you can't just infinite duress into 5. What is the game plan for making this Warwick viable past, you know, that 15-minute mark when the lanes start to get a little bit more blurry and the assignments start to get a little bit more varied?
Would actually have to sit back and ask the same thing, but right now Shay is in a really rough spot. Arcane plus flash equals safety, and you do go ahead and hang on to that barrier as well. Actually trade back a decent amount of damage onto Josh N, and keep in mind Shay has been farming out quite well, about a 15 CS lead over Josh N. Smacker now trying to dance on Lestors, who in their own has not done that much, but Smacker now realizing that they're getting pinched, flashing away, ready to ult if necessary, as everyone from High Alert Nightmare is here.
Yep. We see Nuffies again roaming down toward the bot side of the map, this time to no avail. But it just means that if you are Evictix Amethyst, you've got to be really careful tracking this Warwick where he could be, and especially around that river, your positioning is going to matter a lot.
Let's see what they can do here. Dira getting rushed down a little bit. Smacker not really having the speed that you would like. Smite comes down even. That's a full pin against the walls. That's a flash into your Dora's death. Lessor said, yo, what's up? And Shay follows up with the extra. Now they draw in. They know the Volibear has no flash, so it's an easy shutdown for Shay as the funnel has begun.
2 kills over to the AD carry of High Alert Nightmares, and Dira wants more.
Oh, all right, it didn't work. However, we are going to see Blix try a 2-inch flash to try and get away here. And honestly, you might be able to stay safe, but no. Great Cyclone to stay alive. In they go. Blix goes back, but you don't have any extra. However, it's now a 1v2 on the other side. Prism is going to get the shift as well, and Texturous ain't going to survive. You tried to clone. And that's considered a dash, so it's a 2-0 for HAN in the mid lane.
And HAN are just just tearing Evictix Amethyst asunder here in game number 2. Not only are the kills going their way this time around, but that late game win condition is in their back pocket, and it's in the back minds of Evictix Amethyst. And it's just a question of, are they going to be able to stop it? Now, though, those 2 kills onto the Talia, those 2 kills onto the Ezreal are brutal. Dealing with a Warwick who's able to pick off stragglers is one thing, but dealing with champions like Ezreal and Talia is a completely different thing when you factor in the late game.
I am terrified with what's going on here. This is, once again, High Alert Noon, Nightmare were a little bit rough in the early stages. You know, the early deaths, obviously, we're looking at Nuffies being like, oh yeah, you died 3 times, you got a couple kills, but so what? Now it's just rotated into all-out aggression and blood. Shay in the mid lane getting some extra poke down. You can see Josh N just eating it up. You don't really have a choice half the time. We're seeing it rotate now into the mid lane, as we do have that Hex Tech Dragon to play for, one of the best acceleration dragons that you could possibly ask for when it comes to either chasing or trying to keep someone away.
Yeah, something I always say about the Hex Tech Dragons is that you oftentimes look at the Dragon Souls with a condition, right? Like what type of team comp can benefit the most from certain dragons? I would say Hex Tech is the best all-around dragon, where you can fit it into just about anything and it'll work out equally as well. So certainly a good Dragon Soul for the side of Han to pick up, and one that I feel like they will certainly make use of, especially with poke champions like Talia and Ezreal being able to lay down that chain lightning from a distance.
Oh boy, here we go. This is gonna be a Nightmare setting up for the Drake once again, and there is no response. There is 0. If there were one, it'd be Smacker trying to dive for their camp. But honestly, I mean, Nuffies running interference means that this is just an easy take. And once again, like clockwork, HAN putting themselves on soul point.
And now because of that, I believe HAN have access to the fabled what's the word? The boots. The upgraded boots. So the feats of strength are given over to High Alert Nightmares, and EVX going for the Herald. They actually do have the ability to take this. I mean, Less Forced is on the bot side of the map, but the question is, can they take it fast enough? I think they can, but getting away might be a taller task.
Yeah, this is going to be that wall going over. Blix trying to jump away, but this is a split fight once again. Texturous is realizing that they need to turn it around. What a hold, though. You're able to stay alive for so long. His Nuffies and Prism is going to help route the rest of the team. Smacker is going to be all on their lonesome. But again, Nuffies has done what Nuffies needed to do. He stayed alive long enough to get this draw. Moonfall brings the damage, and Smacker gets pinned against the wall and finished. Well done. As it's a 3-for-1 in turn for the Herald.
It's a Herald. It's an objective for Evictix Amethyst, but at what a cost, Orbital? They lose 3. Like you said, they're about to lose this top lane tower, and on the other side of the map, the remaining members of Amethyst aren't able to get anything done. You can see Blix is on the bot side trying to push down and potentially get damage on that turret, but Prism is right there to respond, to walking down bot lane and ready to clear these waves. The response from Han has been immaculate in this game too. Every time Evictix Amethyst have been ready to fight or wanted to engage something, they have been there to respond, and they have won out in those trades.
Oh man, even Blix trying to run away just looks rough right now. There's such a long lane, as well as Dira is just like here to help out. This entire game is just flowing into the Nightmare's hands, and I'm very curious. You know, I wonder what it would be like to watch that 2-1 game that we saw earlier in the week 1, as this is just another kill. Granted, it's a turnaround. At this point, it's the standard for Nuffies to get a kill and then to be killed. Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
Wait, they decided to keep going? Wait,
hang on.
Really? Dira dove into a 1v3 with Less Force and is waiting for the rest of the team to come by.
Hang on.
Like, I don't want to go there. This is going to be a chase in, as that's going to be the finish. Blix tried to finish off Dira, but Dira's still alive. Meanwhile, Texturous is on the top side, just like, please let me farm this up. But a wild jungle fight lands to a 1v2.
I mean, Texturous has been trying so hard to have a side lane presence. I mean, you've got the 6 scrubs. You've got to try and make use of them. You get that top lane turret, but like you said, Orbital, look at the rest of the map. Your members are going down. Your bot lane turret almost gets taken by Prism as well. And really, the clock is continuing to get down to that fourth and potentially final dragon for the side of Han. We found ourselves in a similar situation to game number 1 with the Otacon being up around the time of the Soul. And with Han in the driver's seat, unlike game number 1 at this point in time, it's interesting to see what they're actually going to do. Will they prioritize the Voracious, try to take that before the Dragon, and use it to kind of have that free fight win around that bot side objective? Or will they be willing to potentially trade the Dragon for the Vatacon instead?
I honestly, I would never trade a dragon in this situation. The Voracious is just there. I think it is available to take, but it shouldn't be a priority. I like this a little bit better. Shay baiting out that ulti and is now going to chase underneath the tower. That is going to be a Prey Seeker missing, and now they're going to jump forward as that's going to be the crash down. Eudora just trying to save their ADC, and they are able to kill off Bloodsport. So really, really well done. And that's going to be one of your main engaged tools gone. So Evictix actually chasing in and up, trying to look for some sort of global pressure.
And Nuffy's trying to get in there, but you've got to be careful, my friend.
And that's going to be the wall coming out here. Nice punch away. And you're able to solo out Eudora. What a well-timed piece of the puzzle. True Shot Barrage lands. Smacker has no chance. Texturous is going to be able to find one kill, flashing even to stay away. But of course, you're chasing into the wrong side of the map. It's still death for death's glory.
There you go. The Warwick Gaming, ladies and gentlemen.
I can't believe this is happening, Quacks.
I can't either. 10 seconds until the Dragon as well. Less Force, despite going down, will be up for that objective. And with Smacker out of the picture, it is almost certainly going to be a soul for the side of High Alert Nightmare. And really just a well-played fight at that point as Nuffy's. This man does not care. I actually commend the gaff mentality of this guy.
Yeah, I think it's also because you're willing to expend your life for the dragon. I mean, you just got Soul, which is going to highly impact your DPS output. Now you got the Soul ability. Now you have the extra attack speed plus ability haste. It is going to be just raw damage all the way out here. So your life for a Soul, easy choice there, but you don't even have to do that. Now we take a look at the Octagon on the top side. Prism is going to try and get some wards down and make sure to keep eyes on where everyone is and make sure they're ready for the next global objective.
Sure, and this is going to be the chance for Evictix to try and create some space of their own. Taking this mid lane tower, they'll be able to get some of those wards down that they wouldn't otherwise have been able to get down. Unfortunately, that Herald's joyride will be cut short, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of a question of will this be enough for them to actually threaten around this Otacon who hasn't been taken. And honestly, if I'm Han, I don't feel the need to actually take this. A lot of my fights are going my way. I feel like the overextension aspect of this game is kind of past for the side of High Alert Nightmares. There are no rush, I feel, to take this top side objective.
Absolutely not. I would actually like to see them push down more towers. I want to see them try and close this game out very, very neatly. I want to see them be able to win this out without possibly losing in more fights than necessary. I like that Lesworth has opted for a little bit more extra shielding in there. I love having those boots already upgraded, and it makes sense, but you also ran a lot of the DPS side. So if you go in, you're going in, honestly, on the day.
Yep. But a minute until the Baron spawns. This top side about to increase heavily in priority, just getting that vision down. Really, you don't have to worry a lot about that bot side. You can see that both Nuffy's and Blix are just kind of matching each other around there, but predominantly the members are up toward this top side. So controlling that top lane wave, controlling that mid lane wave, and getting vision down where you can to just be able to track the members of the opposing team is going to be step number one for both these squads. He's in!
Oh, they might have found it, but a nice little shove keeps him a little bit further away. Che is gone. But is there any objective to really grab here? Che is honestly not the one that I'm really looking at. You still have yet to kill Prism and the like, but this might open up the Baron if possible.
It could open up the Otacon. I mean, screw the Baron. It's not even up yet as here goes Nuffy.
That
One of
was
the
such
sentries.
a good buffer.
Yup, he gets on out. But I feel like this Warwick is a little too low to join up in this fight, so it's a 3v4 orbital. The question, are we going to see a repeat of game number 1 where they throw at Otacon?
Oh, it's gonna be a smite fight. You still get it. Prism is able to steal away, which means it's a huge shift into the damage source, and you're all on top of the stones. Even though a few members die, it doesn't matter. Prism's like, yo, freebie for us. And guess what? Nuffies gets everything on the bottom side. True shot barrage from base will collect no one, but it's enough to force a stop on the recalls. Once again, the dance of death, and the final shard will take the kill. Double for the likes of Prism. And Nuffies not only takes an outer tower, but an inhibitor tower, and gets some damage down on the inhibitor itself.
Yeah, I mean, he could try to look for the inhibitor, but now
God,
he's in a
they do a
1v2
Baron.
situation. Yeah, I mean, you combine the Otacon with that Hex Tech buff, and the fact that those gates get you around the map so quickly, and suddenly the Baron is a foregone conclusion. High Alert Nightmares, they land the Smite. Prism is actually the one that ends up getting the Otacon, and because of that, they are able to secure themselves yet another objective, inflating this gold lead for HAN to about 8,000.
Well, this is actually a problem spot, though. You went a little bit too far, and now you might be getting chased out. Blix is able to flash in,
look at the
get a good dance
disengage.
down, and yeah, they're trying to disengage, but honestly, I think you're going to lose here. It's a question of
I
getting
don't
fight
think
back,
so.
and that's a huge damage. Plus the Zanyas, I spoke too soon. What a bait and a half. Prism with the arm guard by.
And Les Forrest arriving like Liam Neeson in a tragedy. This man goes right back in with his team, saves them from despair, and now High Alert Nightmares are looking to put the final lights out.
Joshin can do nothing. There was no way out. I am so sorry. Textures trying to hold on as much as they can, but honestly, I don't think there is an out. Prism went a little bit too far, getting bopped on the head, which will pass here. But it doesn't matter as the rest of your team is now breaking down the base. Mid inhibitor is gone. Top side inhibitor tower plus an inhibitor will fall. And it looks like everything that they could possibly ask for will be taken. Evictix looking at shambles of their base.
Evictix just not able to keep up with the rolling steam train that is High Alert Nightmare. They're also a high velocity nightmare, as these guys do not stop. They keep on chugging along in this game, and now the final act of this game and potentially of this series orbital might just be behind the curtain. And that will be this Elder coming up in about 30 seconds. HAN, they're clearing out vision, they're establishing some of their own, and they're punishing any members who step into their territory.
Nuffies is like, please stay away. I know what to do. Ult on Blix even, allowing a follow through on Smacker. And I mean, Deer's just gonna run interference. This is gonna be perfect here. Rest of the team is here. What a big chunk. Joshin is gone. Textures took one look at this battle and said, yeah, I'm good. In goes executions galore as Nuffies is taking a chomp out of their opponent. High Alert Nightmare have said we may have lost our opening series, but we are by no means weak. We are a powerful squad, a winning squad here, and we will show it. 2-0 is the scoreline as High Alert Nightmare win their week 2 matchup.
And High Alert Nightmare do it in decisive fashion in game number 2. We had a lot of questions about how they would perform in game number 1, after game number 1 orbital, where it kind of felt like they won that game off of the back of a throw by Evictix Amethyst at that Otacon. How would they do driving this game in the driver's seat? And they were going 90 miles an hour on a speedway, all gas and no brakes. And that gold graph tells a very one-sided story, my friend.
That is one of the sharpest drop-offs that I've seen in a while. That is like stock market style right there. And I feel like it comes from the likes that Nuffies put out performances left, right, and center in game number 1. Had a pretty nice game. on the Mundo was tanking up very well, was pushing. And then this one just being a giant pain in the backside to both a Wukong and an Echo. Amazing stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like it is off the back of Prism and Che in particular. It feels like this game, you know, we talk about Nuffies, we talk about the X factor of the Warwick, and that X factor certainly was a valuable commodity in the early game, but our questions about how would this Warwick perform around the mid to late game, we didn't really have to worry about that at all, Orbital, because it felt like the Ezreal and the Talia were constantly able to hold their own, were constantly able to create space and just poke out the members of Evictix Amethyst. So massive shout out to the mid and AD of HAN. They played immaculately here in game 2, and shout out to the whole squad for a 2-0 week. The division of Targon just got a lot more interesting. Whenever you see a team that is 1-0 beat, or whenever you see a team that is 0-1 rather beat a team that is 1-0, you know that this is a closer group than a lot of people anticipated it to be, and wouldn't have it any other way in the ADL here.
It's going to be a great time, and honestly, it's just the start of the season. We have many more weeks of play to come through. We have many more days of play to come through, as this is a start of week 2 for all of the Aegis leagues. Tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're going to have leagues all the way through, so make sure to stay tuned. I believe all at about 8 p.m. ET, all the same, to go ahead and get your fill of the Aegis League of Legends side of things. But that'll be it for us here on the desk. Thank you so much for tuning in to this matchup of the Aegis Defenders League of Legends week 2. Of course, it was so much fun. My name is Orbital. With me has been Quacks, and of course Caddy on the production. We thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。